Well, welcome. This week's build is the brand new Blink from Angel Wing Designs, electric radio controlled Delta. A couple of unique things. It's got custom 3D printed tips, a custom 3D printed cowl and engine mounts, and also custom printed handholds to launch her with. So anyway, follow me along on this build. Right, the Blink. Let's see what's in the box. Ooh. Right guys, hang on a minute, let me just hold that up there and then I'll slowly fish this out for you. Right, okay. Trailing edges. And some electrical parts. He's very kind, Andy very kindly sent me the motor and ESC, which we'll discuss when we get to it. Oh, lovely 3D printed tips. And then motor mounts and ducting, all 3D printed. That looks like that's for our hatch, with the nuts and bolts in, all nicely sealed. Some adjuster horns and 3D printed horns to go with it. He's very kindly sent me 4 props. He's obviously seen me fly before. Right, there we go. Boxer balsa. And that's the sticker kit, which I will go through when we get to the finishing, but I'm going to put that back. I'm going to put these back in here, and then I'm just going to get all the balsa out for you and show you what's in the kit. Okay, that's the kit opened out with all the bits. Just be careful when you're lifting it out, because Andy's laser cutting is so good, they literally fall out of these sheets of balsa. Top tip there, that's your push rods for the controls. Put that somewhere safe, back in the box. This is your leading edges, obviously with trailing edges. Wow. Right, let's get the instructions out and find out what we got to do. Right, so I've downloaded the instructions, got it on my tablet. You could print them off or just use your phone or download them on a memory stick and stick them on a computer. So first thing we got to do is very fast. First task is to laminate the balsa elevons, the two 10mm thick elevons, ready for shaping. Use PVA or similar adhesives. Right, so what we're looking at doing is gluing these together using PVA. So that's the first thing. It's not real rocket science, that one, so I'm just going to do that. Obviously I'm using the glue as suggested by Angel Wing Designs, which is their TB2 glue. So I'm going to glue these and then clamp them up, and then we can put them to one side and crack on with the main build. Right, so the trailing edges are off gluing, and the instructions now say glue 2 of the 6mm magnets into the hatch retaining plates. You can also glue the magnets into the hatch magnet holder now. Make sure you check the polarity of the magnets. Medium or thick CA, alternatively you can use epoxy. Also we're going to press the nuts into the motor head bulk, and they shouldn't need gluing. That's all in this pack here. So let's crack on. Ah! I just dropped 2 bloody magnets, didn't I? Down in underneath my bench. Whew. Top tip, be careful with your magnets. Nuts are in. We're going to need that. Magnets are in, we're going to need that, and this one we're going to put by safely, because this is for your hatch. Tell you what I did do, when I glued these I just chucked the magnets on top. That automatically gave me the orientation, and then glued them in place. So we're going to need this and this, and our first bit of wood. Right, first bit of balsa. Now, top tip here, these are quite fragile as they are. There's minimal sanding to do, but my advice is just nip off any little bits of the laser tagging that's left with these pieces still left inside, because they are quite fragile, and the whole thing is that it's greater in the strength when they're all connected together. So just a top tip there, don't get sanding it like that. So you're looking for that with the 2 notches, and that's where our motor plate's going to go. I'm just going to get it all set up per the instructions, and I'm going to show you. Right, just make sure you've got your frames orientated properly. So obviously all the slots are at the bottom, and then also that the nuts are at the rear. Got your little groove is sitting at the bottom, and then at the back, the L shape, there's one bit that sticks up. That's where the hatch is going to sit down on. So I'm now just going to leave this just to dry, use medium Sino, and that's just going to dry, and I'm just going to start sorting out the balsa, and we'll talk through all the bits that we're going to need. Right, first bit of wood, you're going to need these. Now, don't be tempted to cut this tab off, because that's a support tab and that's there deliberately at the moment. So the only thing is, I've just cleaned mine off, but I've left these tags in, and so I'm actually going to insert it, because it just gives it a little bit more strength just while you're wielding a bit of sandpaper around. So you need that one, and then that one, and again, don't cut the tabs off, because that's what it's going to sit down on. So we're just going to clean those up, and then we're going to mount them in position. Right, the big one goes at the back, fairly easy to identify. I'm just going to trial fit this in here first, and that drops in here. Just be very gently when you're pushing. That pops in there like so. Oh, look at that, beautiful. So that's going to go in there like so, and we just need to make sure we've got that squared up. But then when we get the second one in, now the second one is literally the next slot up. So this is going to go in here. Again, make sure we've got the middle, and that goes in there like so. And we're going to make sure that that is all sat down. So I'm just going to glue those in place. Just make sure that they are seated properly. If you feel any resistance, stop, take it out and find out why it's resisting, because if not, you could end up breaking it in half. So TB2 glue, let's glue these up. Right, you've got your main spars in. If you're panicking thinking that the back spar is not fitting down, just remember that because we've got the 3D printed nose plate at the moment, that's going to rock it over on the front spar. So all I've done is I have just added some of the blanks just to support it. So now, as you can see, all my spars are fitting lovely. Right, so we've got our primary 2 glued in, and all I've done is I've just spent the last few minutes. What I've done is I've cut all the ribs, all the spars out, and I've identified, paired them up, and then I've just looked at the lengths, and then obviously put them either side. Let me show you. So that's all I've done. I've matched them all up. I'm just going to now just offset either side, and then we're going to start with doing the right wing first, because you know that's gospel, and then we'll start adding. I haven't quite decided whether to put the spar in first or whether to drop the rib in and then fit the spar up underneath, because I'll get back to you on that one. I don't know what the preferred technique is. But yeah, just identify. It's very easy with the pictures on the plans. So I'm just going to identify these, and then we'll start a mass session of gluing. Right, so I've had a cup of tea, and I've had a thought about how I'm going to actually drop in the ribs, stroke spars, and the process of how I'm going to do it to make it the most ergonomic. Let me show you. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to glue these 2 spars in here like so. I'm not gluing in the end spar at the moment. I'm going to pop them in like that. They're going in. I'm going to put the trailing edge, this the one before the trailing edge is in. Then I'm going to drop this rib down and see how stable it is. If that's all good, then I'm going to start, I might add another rib. I don't want to, I'm going to put the trailing edge one on when I've got a few ribs in, because that's the only bit, this bit, that's going to be joining the back of, so we want a bit more stability. I'll let you know how I get on. Right, I've got the second rear spar in, the two front spars in. Now we've just got to make sure that we get this right. And remembering any sort of stiction at all, stop and come back and find out where it's sticking. Right, quick update. It's going well. Let me just show you something I did. I put rib 1 in, rib 2 in, and then I've actually added this front spar, because that's now going to stop it rocking with boards, and I don't need this packing anymore. I'm now going to do one more. I'm going to do the outer ribs and then think about sticking the trailing edge in. Just also remember, don't panic like I did. It's supposed to slope like that, because I was thinking, was it supposed to be square at the back? Nearly started thinking I was going to have to remove a rib, but no. I've checked the I've checked the drawing. Right, so let's crack on with a few more ribs. Right, so I've where it's just on the ends, obviously there's no notch to hold it in place, so I've just tacked it with a pin for the time being. And I've now added the trailing edge spar, and now I'm just going to do the last 2 ribs, and then we'll be this side will be done, and we can look at doing the other side. I have found it beneficial that when you've got it generally in place, believe it or not, it's actually easier to lift it off the bench than pushing down on it. Right. I'll see, this one is an end plate, so I'm just gonna tack a pin in there. Let's get the last one in. I'm guessing that's going to go like that, isn't it? Right. I've got to be honest with you, I wouldn't want to do this in Sino. No way, Jose. It's far too risky. Couple of pins for this bad boy, and then basically this is this side, the basics are done, and then I'm now going to check the instructions, because I believe we just do the other side. So I'm just going to have a good look round here, make sure everything's sat square, but it looks really cool at the moment. So the basic wing is done. I've got to mention, please be very careful. I accidentally managed to break the end of one of my ribs on the top because I stupidly dropped my knife. It fixed up all right. It was easy. It just detonated it, so I lifted it and stuck a bit of glue. So the next 2 things we're going to need is these. These are your nose gussets. and I'm just going to stick these in place, and I'll show you exactly where I've done it. But you know, when you glue something in like that and you haven't got to do any sanding, ah, lovely. Right, let me just stick these in and I'll show you where they go. So trailing edge, that went on really well. Now I've got to be honest with you, when I looked at it I thought, oh, I don't fancy sanding that down, but Andy says apparently it's got reflex built into the wing, which I can see at the tips. So I'm going to go with his advice, because I thought about actually planing mine first and then adding them, but he said don't do that. Just going to have to be careful, aren't we? So we've done those. The only other thing we've got to do is I'm going to sandwich two of these together. These are the gussets, and we're going to put, that's going in there for strength, just in that corner there. So I'm just going to add those gussets, and then I'll get back to you. Right, I've put the gussets in. I'm assuming I sandwich the two together and then put it in, because it's quite a high stress area with where the tip goes as well. Now the next thing you're going to need is this bad boy here that says rear, and this one here. These two are glued together first before they're inserted. So I'm going to glue these two together. That's what you're looking for. And it also mentions about thinning it down at the trailing edge. So when you read the instructions, you'll get what I mean. But so these two, great laser cutting. I'm just going to glue these, clean them up, glue them together, and then they'll get fitted in there. Now I might wait a little while, because obviously I've just glued my trailing edge in and some idiot stuck a load of pins in the way. So quite a good idea. I'm going to glue these, and then what I think I might do is, while I'm just going to let this all sort of harden off, because I've gone mad at it for about an hour and a half and it's all together, but I'd really like it to dry properly. What I think I might do is I might actually just set this aside somewhere nice and square, and actually make the rudder, or make the fin. So if I do, I'll get back to you. Right, I've just put the wing aside just to the glue to go off. Now the only other thing we're going to do now is I've got a few spare minutes. I thought, you know what, let's make the fin. Idle hands. Let me show you. It's dead easy, but there's a tip to this. Now it's all in on one sheet. I've cut them all out and cleaned it up. Now, so obviously fin, 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 they're going to be glued. This is the little bottom skeg, goes on the bottom there like so. Now this will go onto there. You do not glue it now. This goes somewhere safe, because this is going to sit on top of your hatch, and this is how you're going to be able to lift your hatch on and off with the magnets. So put this somewhere safe. And now I'm just going to use wood glue, and I'm just going to glue these 4 bits together. So this top sheet with the rear obviously glued together now, and as instructed I've tapered it down to 1mm. Now on the elevons you'll find you've got a little notch. I've spoken to Andy and I've removed those, and I'm guessing what's going to happen is when we do the bottom version of this, these two are going to actually end up joining together. And I'm just going to glue this in place. Let me just get this in place and I'll show you. Right, I'm just going to glue that in place. Now I'll be honest with you, there's a little gap between the elevons and the sheeting. I was looking at it thinking, oh my god, I'm short, I haven't put them in properly. But then, like Andy said, that's where the elevons go. So do not join this back sheet to the elevons, because obviously the elevons are going to be moving up and down. So at the moment I'm just going to glue this in place, and then we'll talk about doing the okay, I have also just added that front sheet. It's dead easy to pick out that one in the kit. So that's then just glued down. That's the top part of the motor hatch. I'm just going to glue this bit on, obviously making sure I've got the taper on the right side, and then we'll talk about the undersurface. Right, so that top surface for the fin is just gluing. Now you have to do exactly the same for the bottom. So there's the bottom one I've done, and you'll notice he's got two little black dots to match up, and then the next sheet has got 3 dots. So I've basically got all these sheets. So there's the next one, that's the one that's got the 3 dots that line up. So right, there's the one with the 3 dots that line up, and then the next one is this one with the 4 dots, and then finally this will be your final piece, which goes right to the front. Now, right, bottom sheeting. There's 2 possible ways around this. I'm going to show you what I've done via the plan. So in other words, I glued all mine together, made sure that I got a straight edge down the side, and basically what's going to happen now is I'm just going to feed it in from the back. That's plan 1. Plan 2, if you don't fancy doing that, is I would glue the back 2 with the notches like we did on the top. Then you can infill all the way to the front. Now the issue with that is you're going to have to fiddle it through the slots. I've got to be honest with you, the next thing that we're going to do anyway, oh, leading edge, you could take off this little bit of the cap strip, if the build strip, this is the underneath. You could cut the inboard bit off if you wanted to give yourself better access. So I'll let you decide which way. I've done it just as per the instructions. I'll get back to you in a couple of minutes when I've unpinned this, and I'll let you know how it went. Right, I have chamfered all the edges. I've actually pre-chamfered them before I glued them all together. So let's just have a little gentle go here to see whether we can feed this all the way up. Wow, I'll take that. So, not gonna lie, that went bloody brilliantly. So as you saw from the video, slid in very nicely, it was just very gentle, check seal was fine, and then I just put the glue all on the edges. I actually glue on the frame and on the sheet, and then slid it. I had a little bit ooze out, but I'd rather have that than not enough glue. So now the next thing we have to look at is the leading edges. It's fairly obvious where it goes, but a good top tip, I mean, you're never ever going to get these, although I've got to say these are pretty good. When you get these in position, which they will do there, just give them a little rotate and you might find you get a slightly better fit. So that's where they go. You're gonna have to chamfer the front edge off just a little bit, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut the nose at the angle, and I'm gonna leave the wing tip slightly long, and I'm gonna finish that off after I've got it glued. So that's the next step, is gonna whack these in. Again, I'm gonna be using wood glue. Right, leading edges, they've gone on cracking. So while they're gluing, all I've done is I've got my servo covers, and I have just beveled the edges so get a nice finish, and these sit on there like so. So I'm just going to glue these in place as well. And then I think I'll go and have a cup of tea. I'll just let that all set up. But it's, yeah, it's going well at the moment. Right. I put the panels on for the servos as I showed you. Now, all I've done is I've put my wingtips on. They literally just drop straight on. I just brushed the sandpaper over it once just to give it a rough surface. I've used medium cyano on those. And remember that actually they've got to droop down slightly because we're going to be having to sand or plane this trailing edge later. So I also put the handholds on. Little tip there, just dry fit them, and I just ran a this is a ruler ran a ruler over the top just to make sure they weren't sort of sticking proud. So the next thing that we've got to look at is sanding this trailing edge and making ourselves a hatch. So I'm just going to let them go off and we'll get back to you. Oh, and pinging the tabs off. I am going to remove these tabs and I am just going to slowly start from the back. Don't snap them off. I think you're better off just slowly going through with the blade. Get yourself a nice sharp blade. Let's take all these off and then we'll have a meet up. Right, I have my finger holes and my tips on. Now the next bit I'm going off plan. I've done a little bit of soul searching over this and I'll explain my reasoning. There's nothing wrong with what's written down on the plans. This is just looking at my own skill set and I'll tell you why my reasoning. It says to obviously measure back from the spar 6mm and then to plane the ailerons down to 2mm at the back. My own personal concern is I'd be worried about catching the plane on the orange and damaging the wing. So I've decided, and it's purely my own skill set, I'd looked at that and I thought to myself, do you know what, if I'm not careful I'm going to end up, I might break that. That's just me. You can follow the instructions and I know Andy's done it and other people have done it, I had no trouble at all. But just for me, I've marked the 6mm and also I've gone just an extra millimetre because it's quite close to where the spars, the ribs slots fit. So I've just come back a pencil's thickness further back. I'm now going to cut those, remembering which is left and which is right, and then I'm going to plane these on the bench and then just offer them up. For me, I just felt like that was a safer way of doing it. I might end up breaking something, so that's what I'm going to do. Is I'm now just going to cut these off, nice sharp new blade, straight down. Going to cut them off, and then I'm going to plane them. As I'm planing them, I'm just going to slowly offer them and match them up. I'll let you know how I get on. I might break it, cut them off. Hurrah! Got them off without breaking anything. Little top tip. I've just marked mine right and left, just on the inside, so I don't get confused. So now I'm going to plane these down to 2mm at the back, and I'm just going to offer them up as I go along, just so I get the right shape. But that's gone really well. So just be careful. Nice steel ruler. Possibly I wouldn't use a blade like that. You might find that a blade like this, which is slightly thicker but just lots of strokes, because you might find if you push too hard this blade will weave about a bit. Just a top tip. I'll come back to you when I've planed them. So quick update, the elevons went really well. I've got to be honest with you, I'm sort of umming and ahhing about which technique. My advice is, if you're happy to doing it the way it says on the instructions, I think actually genuinely I think I could have got away with that. but I was just concerned, and it meant a little bit, me being a little bit more careful with the trailing edge spar. But actually it was quite easy to get it off, just off the end of the bench. Anyway, bottom line is, barring planing mine the wrong way, which I resolved, they're all done, dusted. Now the very last couple of things we've got to do on the actual build is this hatch. Let me show you. So I've glued these two together. You've got your two bits of hardwood here. I've got my magnet, and I've just dropped that back in the fuzz just to make sure that I got the orientation right. Now this hatch here drops out of these balsa sides. Don't be tempted. I nearly accidentally threw mine away, to be honest with you. But the idea is they're going to go into the side of the fuselage like so. So that's going to, they glue to the fuselage, and then the idea is you glue this to there like that. And then the other thing is then this is going to engage into here like so, bearing in mind that we've got a bit of a curve here, so I think I might be going down, making myself a cup of tea and just getting this steamed. So that's what I'm going to plan to do. Now when you're doing your curving, just remember that this is glued, so I'd start, I think the curve really starts from about here anyway, but I'm just going to get that over the kettle and then just give that a little bit of a pre-curve and then show it some love. Okay, process for the hatch. This is how I did it. It's worked out really well. So I put my hatch in place, and then I made sure that the sides, two side strips fitted, took the hatch back out, then glued and pinned, put the hatch in, glued and pinned the strips out, making sure I didn't get any glue on the hatch. And then all I did was I built it round the hatch, all pinned in place, and then the moment I was happy, I just removed the hatch, so there's no danger of me gluing the hatch in. So obviously I've got to use this to get it out at the moment because I don't have the fin to remove it. If I just take that out of there, that comes out beautifully. And now the next thing we're looking at doing is obviously just trial fitting. Read the instructions about the sanding of this, quite important to the stability. It quite rightly says in the instructions you need to leave the trailing edge square. I'm just going to round that slightly. I'm not over thinning this, to be honest here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to drop that down, and then I've got the other section which is going to sit in here. Now I've got a pre-production kit, and I think mine is there slightly adrift on that, which Andy has fixed for the production run. So I'm just going to get my auxiliary fin. So I've got my auxiliary fin, and I'm just going to drop this into here, and then that's going to go on there like so. We're getting very close to finishing, and I've got something special to show you. Right, I have temporarily put this bad boy all together. The hatch, that idea that I followed that through, that went really well. So basically I pinned the outer strips down, put the hatch down, made sure I was happy with the spacings, pinned the strips down. When I'm happy, lifted the hatch, let the glue go off. This actually becomes the handle for the hatch. So all I'm going to do now is, because of the paint scheme that I want to do, I'm now going to give this a massive sand up. Just be careful when you're doing the sanding. Think about where you're putting your hands when you're doing the sanding, aka be careful you're not pushing down on one of these, because it could be quite easy to break these if you're not thinking about where you're applying the pressure. So I'm now going to give this a sand up. When I've got it finished, I am going to come back and we'll do the installation of the gear. So it's then going to be sanding, gear, covering, finishing. Oh, oh, right. So, calm down, Nick. So, I'm going to do a separate video on how I did this, but basically, it's just a can of car spray and some black felt tip. So, we've got the motor to stick in and the ESC to set up. Now, you can either run your cable through the ESC, through the side there. I'm breaking with tradition and I'm going to run mine through the front of the former, although Andy tells me I'm stupid because I won't be able to get a big battery in. But to be honest with you, I don't want to be a big battery because I'm a scaredy cat anyway. I'm going to be quite happy just to potter about. Your choice, my advice, follow the instructions. Who am I? So I'm now going to cover this. I'm going to come back to you with literally a final assembly. I got my gear in, which I use some Kings Max metal geared. They are the KM1002, which is like a thin servo, wing servo. So nice and slim, fits in there beautiful. They're just hot glued in. So now I'm going to cover and I'll come back to you. And boom, here she is, one blink. She runs in at 361 grams, fully loaded. Let's just talk about the last few things that I did. Obviously, this is where nice magnets, mate. That's where your hatch goes. I installed a 40 amp brushless speed controller, and that you can is going to be a bundle from Angel Wing Design. So it's going to be the motor. So the motor is an RS2205. You've already seen I put the metal geared wing servos from the component shop. This is running a 6x4 prop. All I did for the battery retention is I put a little bit of Velcro in the front, and then when I'd worked out where my balance was, and mine's slightly nose heavy at the moment, and I also Velcroed the speed controller to the side, but the way I've got it, I've got plenty of draft going through. Yeah, I'm really pleased with it. Couple of little things, make sure, my advice would be is when you're putting the control horns that come with it, I opted to go the advice that Andy gave, and that was to use epoxy resin, and they ain't coming off. Also, don't forget the little carbon rod which goes over the slit, over the push rod, just to strengthen it. When I'd got mine all in place, I put a little bit of tissue underneath and just wicked the tiniest little bit of Sino, but you don't want it running back, so do it at the front, make sure it's not running back. But that was enough just to secure that, and that gives it the strength. Let me switch her on. So remember, transmitter on first, throttle's off. We're just going to connect this bad boy up. I've got masses of movement at the moment, which I've had to dial down for the test flight. And for those of you interested in speed, all right, mate, I'm just using a 850. It's a 11 volt 850 milliamp hour. Yes, I know, Andy, it needs to be about 200 cells and about 58 volts. I'm going to be quite happy to potter around with this. In fact, actually, I've even got a slightly smaller battery, which is an 11 volt 550. I might even give them a little bung just to see what it's like. They ain't going to last long, but anyway, let me show you. So let me put that back in place. That's in there like so. Hand away from the prop. So there's plenty there. And these are the controls I've got. I followed exactly the instructions on the measurements for the control throws, and I've put 15% exponential in. So all we need now is some weather. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that build. I enjoyed building it. It's a cracking build. One little tip I would say: just be careful when you're picking it up, and in your mind try and say pick from the fuselage. Don't be tempted to pick over the sides, because you might. I ended up damaging a rib, my own fault, because I thought, oh, just picked it up and ended up taking one of the top of the spars off, and it's my own fault. Anyway, there she is, the Blink. I'll see you soon.